Following the April 21st attacks, security forces have been working on high alert day and night to ensure that every Sri Lankan could go about their lives without any fear. However, there is a broad debate among the general public on the hard work of our dedicated security forces going to waste, as political influence is facilitating the release of certain suspects arrested by the forces. This was discussed in Parliament today.
Do not leave room for suspicion among the general public on the operations conducted by the police and the tri-forces. There are various stories circulating that politicians are securing the release of the suspects arrested by the forces. Politicians are speaking on behalf of these suspects. Be sensitive about these incidents. We ask this government not to allow the investigations to be affected by anyone's influence. It was mentioned in a newspaper that one politician had influenced the commander of the army to release arrested suspects. This is a serious situation.
The
owner of the copper factory in Vellampitiya were among the suicide bombers. 9 employees at the factory were arrested. Under which act were they arrested? Was it under the Prevention of Terrorism Act? No. If they were arrested under the Prevention of Terrorism Act, the magistrate cannot grant them bail. The police media spokesperson says that an investigation is underway into this matter as well. Are the police officers and the superintendent of police not aware of the Prevention of Terrorism Act? The TID knows exactly how to file charges. The singular youth who were arrested in connection to the incident in Digana were detained for 3 months under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. The media reported for money being involved in these incidences, money in the eastern province and other areas. The relative of the people behind these attacks were involved. These people can be brought in under the Act. But that is not being done. So we ask the government, if they want to really prevent terrorism, who is influencing them to repeal this act?
Now joining you from the News First studios, Jaimal, as MP Susil Premjant mentioned in Parliament, why wasn't action taken under the Prevention of Terrorism Act against these suspects? Now there is a justifiable suspicion that the political powers that be would have instructed the officials not to act under the Prevention of Terrorism Act purely because Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe is attempting now to pass the counter-terrorism bill on the heels of this attack. Now, are the laws in Sri Lanka actually adequate to deal with global terrorism? This subject was discussed in Parliament today.
We are suspicious as to if this government is trying to pass the Counter-Terrorism Act over the corpses of the victims of the Easter Sunday attacks, as promised to their international paymasters.
The Honourable Prime Minister stressed that if we are to deal with global terrorism, we need new laws, so we need to approve this draft. But then the Prevention of Terrorism Act No. 49 of 1978 is still in effect with only 2 amendments made to it. This act has the relevant provisions to arrest these terrorists who are said to have been trained overseas and are engaged in acts of terrorism in the country. But according to what I see, this counter-terrorism bill was brought by the Foreign Minister in 2015 to fulfill the undertaking of the government to the UNHRC as per Resolution 30/1. Therefore, this bill was brought in as per the direction of the Foreign Minister. Non-government organizations are behind these.
Now, for the past few years, the manner in which the government drafted certain legislation has been questioned now and again. The first such incident was the central bank bond scam. As the government came into power, the Prime Minister took under his purview the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. And of course, everybody in the country and the world over knows where this led, the central bank bond scam. Now, no proper action has been taken on this as yet. This too was discussed in the political arena today.
He is clearly trying to bend the law. We saw how he bent the law to his advantage during the central bank robbery. These laws were amended and Arjuna Mahendran was deported from the island. Nothing needs to be said. The central bank robbery is swept under the carpet. He amends the law to how he wants it to be. All of this is done for the protection of the Prime Minister and his government, not for the people or the nation.
Now, following the central bank bond scam, it was the 19th Amendment that came into the play. Now, there were attempts made through the 19th Amendment to legalize the suppression of media. However, media institutions took the matter to the Supreme Court, and these attempts to suppress media freedom were subdued by a Supreme Court verdict. Now, this matter too, incidentally, was discussed in Parliament today.
The Minister of Defence is the President, but the Defence Ministry cannot remove the IGP. There is an issue where the 19th Amendment says that the IGP cannot be removed. Currently, there is an acting IGP at the Police Department. Before we discuss anything else, we must put forward a proposal in Parliament to send these officials home because they were appointed by Parliament. Was this why the 19th Amendment was passed? Can't he be removed? The IGP is appointed by the Constitutional Council to the 19th Amendment, but he cannot be removed. What will happen, Honourable Chairman, if the IGP of the country goes mad? What is really happening here? Ranil Wickremesinghe wants to stay in power no matter what happens, just like how he stayed back at Temple Trees and got his premiership. He's asking Pujitha to hold on to his post just like I did. Even if the country is destroyed, is this what is being said? The entire country is in flames.
Now, this is, of course, not the first time that the 19th Amendment was critically discussed in the public sphere. Of course, people who were instrumental in drafting the 19th Amendment, Dr. Jayampathy Wickremaratne and parliamentarian M.A. Sumanthiran. These people were the people who were instrumental in drafting the 19th Amendment. Where are they now when the country is in chaos, purely due to the constraints that have been put upon the executive, especially by the 19th Amendment? Now, at the same time, the government took power, besides amending the constitution in a manner that the executive can't take proper action to stabilize the country. They also abrogated the Foreign Exchange Act and brought in a new Foreign Exchange Act. Now, experts say that all of this have affected the country very adversely, and currently we are suffering the consequences of all of this.
We recently witnessed how the government, all in a hurry, came forward to pass certain bills. For example, the Exchange Control Act was newly amended and approved. Before that, regulatory powers were in place for the central bank regarding exchange controls. The reason why this bill was amended was to assist that power to the minister. The power of administrative officials were assigned to an individual with a political backing. What was expected at that moment, major exchange rate volatility, benefiting the nation, but past incidences revealed that it did not happen. This is a methodology the Prime Minister followed ever since then. As an example, we saw how the exchange control law was passed and total control of it was handed over to his friend Ravi Karunanayake. Same with the Rights to Information Act. The bill included clauses refraining from being informed of certain information. For an example, there is a clause for confidential agreements signed with foreign nationals. No one can be informed of them. Then any agreement can be signed blindfolding the people.
මුවාවෙන් බටර් ගාලා අයිසිං දාලා මේ රික්නෝසිංහ මහත්තයා නැත්නම් මේ රජය ගෙනාපු සෑම පනතක යට තිබිලා තියෙන්නේ වෙනත් යටි කූට්ටු වැඩ.
Now, relating to the past experiences surrounding the passing of certain legislation and procedure when it comes to the central bank bond scam, and also the 19th Amendment to the Constitution followed by the Exchange Control Act, there is clear suspicion that the same is about to be done with the counter-terrorism bill that is currently being attempted to be passed in Parliament. These were the views expressed in Parliament regarding those attempts.
I ask the Prime Minister not to speak of this Counter-Terrorism Act and get the entire country out on the street. The Cardinal as well as the Mahanayaka Theros have said that the necessary provisions can be added to the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Please do not respond rigidly against these requests made by political parties and all other sectors.
When certain UNP MPs who are elected to Parliament by the general public speak with us, they say that they are against this. There is a group that loves the country in that camp as well. That group does not approve of this. The third clause in the bill is drafted in a way that even political activities can be interpreted as terrorist activities. So everyone who loves the country, no matter which party they represent, are against this bill.
But we can see that a few people, including Ranil Wickremesinghe and Mangala Samaravira, are using this moment as an opportunity to fulfill the promises that they had made to certain parties.
වෙනුවෙන් මේ පනත සම්මත කරගන්න අවස්ථාව හැටියට මේ අවස්ථාව යොදා ගන්න කටයුතු කරනවා කියලා.
Now, these controversial laws in Sri Lanka are passed by so-called legal pundits, are drafted by so-called legal pundits in the government and passed into laws that affect every Sri Lankan by so-called public representatives, the people that you and I have elected to represent us in Parliament, the 225 honourable members of Parliament. Now, some of these parliamentarians make it into Parliament purely because of the wealth that they have at their command. The others make it into Parliament through the national list, through the relationship that they have with certain leading political powers. Now, the current Sri Lankan Parliament consists of former presidents, the likes of Mahinda Rajapaksa, people also like Sajith Premadasa, future presidents of the country, and honourable people like MP Vasudeva Nanayakkara and Dinesh Gunawardena, who have behind them years and years of experience in public office. The current situation in the country, however, is that laws have been drafted in a manner that even the IGP of the country cannot be removed from his office at a time when it needs to be done.